So with the fact that I'm going to be going traveling this weekend in mind, I thought I'd do a list for you guys that involved some kind of weird travel-y thing. And then I looked at the list that I'd been compiling and realised it was cack. So I reached out to the people over on Twitter and asked them for their ideas, and here's what we came up with. Do plug into all my socials because I regularly use them to do other things to do with the channel, and also you'll get some behind the scenes stuff. Speaking of socials, do go over to my Facebook if you want to come to the meet and greet in California because I've put the details up over there. Hope you can make it, it's going to be so sweet. Do you get it? Because we're going to have ice cream. And while I'm doing housekeeping stuff, do be sure to subscribe to the channel, otherwise...
Next time you take a long-haul flight, I'm going to ensure that the in-flight entertainment doesn't work. And believe me, I know that sucks because I was on a Delta flight where the in-flight entertainment didn't work.
The games don't work. The audio doesn't work on the movies.
Here's hoping our Lufthansa experience is better. Next time you guys see me, I will be live streaming from San Francisco this coming Monday, so make sure you are subscribed with your notifications on because that's going to be super fun. I'll tell you all my traveling adventures then. And let's just jump into the list. Coming in at number 10, it's something that happens when you just get to the airport, and it happens to these mysterious people, but never me. Somebody gets upgraded. Now, I go on Instagram and I see people who are like sitting there with their little glass of champagne and their legs outstretched on the plane, and they're like, just got upgraded. Who are you? How did you do that? That never ever happens for me. I have come to the conclusion that the people who get magically upgraded know some kind of secret Illuminati code because it just doesn't happen for normal people. Instead, we're forced to sit in the plane like this and just have our space invaded. But you know what? Some solace, they're breathing the same air that you're breathing. Yes, they might have better aircon, but the air is going around the plane, so screw them. Gross air. Coming in at number 9, it's people who fight to get on the plane. When the gate is opened, everybody kind of rushes forward to get on the plane. Now, on American flights, I've noticed that they do this a little better because they call you out in your categories like Group A, Group B, Group C, and this kind of leaves some sort of order, but whenever I'm flying just European, it's always a bit of a cluster. I'm sorry, there's no other word, but I'll shamrock it. I should point out this week that I'm a little floopy because I'm very, very high on anti-hay fever medication, which isn't really working.
Oh, somebody kill me, please!
But yes, a disproportionate number of people fight to get on the plane, which I don't understand. Okay, there is a small issue about baggage space, but realistically everybody should get baggage space, and if they don't, they can put their bag in below, which is annoying, but not the end of the world. I just don't understand why 99.9% of people are on board with pushing to get onto the flight, because I'm just in that 1% who just sits there and chills until the very last possible second, because I don't really like being on the plane that much. I will stay off the plane as long as it's humanly possible. I actually hate flying, I'm going to put it out there. The next weird thing that you always see in the airport is the Shoeshine area. Now, I'll admit, shining your shoes has its place and time, and I guess it's handy that there's a place to shine your shoes in the airport, but why do they have one in
Every airport.
Sure, a lot of people are going business traveling, but still.
Every airport?
I think there might be a conspiracy theory at play here because I think maybe that's where people pass drugs back and forth to each other or something. I can't imagine that many people conscientiously want to get their shoes shined when they're in an airport. Actually, come to think of it, I've very rarely seen anybody getting their shoes shined at the airport. I, for one, have never had my shoes shined, especially at an airport. Albeit, I do tend to wear runners a lot, so they don't require a lot of cleaning. If I rocked up with my runners, would they clean my runners? No, probably not. The next thing you will always see at the airport, and you know how I said number 10 is something that never happens? This one is one that always happens to me. It's random airport security checks. So you know that one person who gets pulled out of the queue and gets like patted down? That's me. I'm always that person. And whenever I ask afterwards when they discover, no, I haven't stashing drugs in my hair, I always ask them, why was I pulled aside? And they just say, random check. If it's so random, why is it always me? I always beep. I always set the stupid thing off. And I'll be honest with you, I don't like the American things that like do the full body scan because I think they're kind of dangerous. But you can't actually really say that you don't want to go through them because you're just causing a whole furore. And the American security people are a lot more aggressive than the other security people. So really, I just want to go through with my head down. But inevitably, I set off the machine and get patted down. So can't win really. The next thing you always see in the airport, and I don't understand this person, is the person who is sitting in the spa with the mask on over their eyes getting their nail polish done or something. How are you so chill? It's the airport. Sure, maybe you have a long stopover, but did you know they can just bring your flight forward? That's a thing they can do. It can happen at any time, and you need to be able to see the board. Why are you so chill? I am very stressed out and anxious when I go to the airport. Who are you people? I've gone to the spa a couple of times when I've been traveling with other people, and it was the most not pampering, not relaxing thing that's ever happened, because you're stressed and tense when you're in the airport. Well, I am. So who are you people who are relaxed? I don't know. You're just aliens or something. I don't really think you're aliens. I just think you're a very chilled out person, which hashtag can't relate to. People don't do hashtag anymore, but I think we should bring it back. The next thing you always see when you're traveling from an airport is this big, huge family who are always the last people to get on the plane. And they just stroll on like the plane has been sitting on the runway for 20 minutes, and this family of 15 just stroll on, chill as anything, and they're just like, just strolling onto the plane. And I know that they're late because I was sitting at the gate last, if you'll recall. So where the hell have they been? They've just been wandering around the airport going, it's our gate being called. I guess we have another half an hour. But why are they let on the plane? I was led to believe that it was important that we get to the gate. But they've just been let stroll on the plane when we're all sitting in and buckled and hoping for our earbuds and stuff. Who are you, family? Who are you? I bet they're important. What's that like? The next weird thing that you always see at the airport is hella designer shops. Okay, designer shops. I understand why they exist on the high street. There are people who like to buy overly priced things. Sure, I get it. Sometimes it's nice to have the nice thing. When I was younger, I promised myself that with my first professional acting paycheck, I would go and buy myself a Chanel handbag. And when that time came and I could afford to buy the Chanel handbag, I looked at the Chanel handbag for like $2,000 and realized I could get a bunch of River Island handbags and still have a lot of money left over, and I just realized it was kind of a waste of money, though I'm sure it would have been a nice thing to own. That's just me. That's just how I feel about designer things. I'm sure they're nice to have, but just, can you justify that? Having said that, I do have one designer thing, and it's actually one of the greatest things ever because I've had it for like over a decade now, I think, and it hasn't fallen apart. So maybe there's something to the whole designer thing. However, let's get back to airports. Why do airports have so many designer shops? Do so many people just impromptu decide to buy $2,000 handbags? It's just of a day. I'm just gonna drop a couple of K on a t-shirt. If you can afford to do so, I think that's great, but I surely would like to do it in the luxury of walking around a street rather than at an airport where I'm just gonna have to carry it onto the plane and it's gonna be more fuss, you know? More fuss. I'm beginning to think I'm one of those people who gets unnecessarily stressed at the airport. Is it just me? Comment below. Moving on, it's people on the airplane who have absolutely no comprehension of the fact that the space is small. Either that or they're just really inconsiderate, self-centered people. They fall into a couple of categories. Seat kicker, seat putter backer aggressively-er, and hand on the back of my seat person. I ran out of hands. You know, you're just sitting there chilling in your tiny box of space and then somebody just goes poof, back into your space with their chair. Or you're sitting there in your tiny cluster of space and you just feel someone pulls on the back of your chair. Or you're sitting there in your tiny area of space and you just feel in your back. I mean, we've all been on planes before, right? We know that the person is sitting in that seat and that what we do to that seat affects that person. No, maybe we don't all know that, but I know that. So just, why do those people just not appreciate that they're imposing on my space that's already very small? It's a very small amount of space that I've paid a stupid amount of money for. I've paid a stupid amount of money for a very uncomfortable seat, but it's my seat, okay? I'm getting wound up about this. I'm not looking forward to my flight now. Think just happy thoughts, moving on to number 2. It's a trolley with a wonky wheel. I don't know how, but whenever I go to get a trolley, it's always the trolley with the wonky wheel. You know, the one that just jams? When you're walking, it just jams, or it goes off to the right or the left. I've noticed in some airports, especially American ones, you have to pay for the trolley, which is just wild. But this thing that's supposed to make pushing your bags around easier can sometimes make it harder because it's got a wonky wheel. And I feel that people should go around who work there and should check that all the wheels are working. And if there's a wonky wheel, that should be repaired. I'm sure it's not high priority in a security zone like an airport, but I know it would make flying a lot more calm for me, which, as this list goes on, I'm realizing is nigh on impossible. But yeah, the wonky wheel, what's that about? Why do you exist? Why do I always get you? And the number one weird, annoying thing that you always see when you travel is people who appear to have never gone through security before.
Oh, do I have to take off my belt? What do you mean, liquids? I have to take out my laptop? This blows my mind.
Like, really? I think we all know the system now, no? It's annoying and impractical and doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we should all know the system. You have your liquids, and you have them in a plastic thing. You take off your shoes, you take off your coat, you take out your laptop and your phone and your keys, you take off your belt. What's so hard to grasp about this? I feel very wound up at the end of this list. I'm not gonna lie. Looking forward to travelling. In green, out red. In green, out red. Okay, better. Today I want to do a couple of shout outs. One of my patrons wants to shout out one of my other patrons called Kevin, who's actually in the army. And in the run up to 4th of July, he wants to say thank you for your service. I love my Patreon community. They're just so lovely. I also just want to take a minute to shout out a couple of people who've given extra little pushes for me on PayPal just to help out with the trip. And those people are Curtis, Brian, Jeffrey, Kim, Craig, Daniel, Maureen, Eric, James, Stephen, and Steve, who are 2 different people. Thank you so much, guys. I so deeply appreciate it. You guys have no idea how much help you have been, so thank you. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye. And while I'm doing housekeeping stuff, do be sure to subscribe. From San Francisco. Are you staying with Uncle Paul? With Uncle Paul, you're gonna have adventures? I don't know how I feel about this hairband. I'm just trying to do something a little bit different. Are you gonna miss me?